Alright guys, well we're going to begin looking at how to use Scratch. Scratch is a graphic block-based programming language. And so the benefit is that you don't have to learn all the specific syntax of typing out codes and writing programs. You can actually just use these blocks. A couple things as we just begin to look at some of these blocks. If you've used the hour of code, these should look somewhat familiar, as it's set up pretty similarly to the hour of code on code.org. A couple other things you'll notice is that they have a little notch out of the top here with the corresponding piece at the bottom. So these pieces really are meant to fit together, and you'll see as you put them close to each other they kind of snap into place and they fit together. Now one of the most basic things even before we get to that is the way that the board is set up. So over here is where everything is going to happen. This is what, once we make our program, the things will take place inside of this area here. Down here, all of our different characters and things that will program and make move are what are called sprites, and so we'll have a list of sprites that will grow down here. This center section is our where all of our blocks will show up, and we have different categories of blocks that we can use. Just a quick note too, you'll see as we click on one of these different categories here that the color that the category is listed in here is also the same color as the block itself. So if you miss where I say to go in order to use one of those, just go ahead and come up and take a look at the color and you can see where it's found then as well. And then over here, this is the space where we're going to program, where we're going to put all our blocks together. A couple other quick notes as well. As we move across in here, you can see that down on the bottom we've got this X and Y coordinate grid, and we can see that as we move all the way over to the left hand side, our X value is negative 240. As we move all the way over to the right, our X is 240, so we can tell that the distance across from and the x-axis is 480 units, and then as we go down it's negative 180 and up is 180. So again, the y is 360 units tall. This will be helpful to know in a little bit as we get into it then as well. Now as we begin to start programming, as we showed here, we've got these blocks that have this little notch out of it. We can't start with one of those. We have to find a block that doesn't have a notch missing from the top, because that's going to show that that needs to be attached to something. So we'll find those blocks in the Events tab. And so we can start with one that looks like this. It has this curved top to it and says when the green flag is clicked. Now what that means is whenever we come over here and click the green flag, whatever we've put underneath here is going to run, and it's going to go through and do that program. So as we go ahead and go into the motion, we can do something like this, move 10 steps. We don't know what 10 steps looks like, so let's go ahead and just try that and see what happens when we click that. And you see that it just moves a very small amount. You'll also notice that it doesn't, our cat is not taking steps necessarily. You don't see the cat's legs moving. It's just going ahead and it's moving 10 steps forward, which we can tell then is actually these units. So whatever these units are that are changing here, that's what's being considered as a step. So 10 steps would be like 10 units in the X direction. Now we can also click on this and we can say, instead of 10, we could say 100 steps. And when we click, we see that the cat moves a much bigger amount of space. Also notice that it's instantaneous. The the move just jumps him ahead 100 steps. It doesn't glide. It doesn't take time to get there. It's pretty much an instantaneous move. If we drag it back, we can click on it again, and we can see that it will jump forward 100 steps instantaneously as soon as we click it. Now, what we're going to do as we learn Scratch is we're going to create a game. And we're going to create a game that will be able to control this cat. And as we control the cat, we're going to add in some different sprites that will be moving around. And our object in the game is going to be to take the cat and catch the sprites. And if we catch them, we'll score a point. And we'll also put some sprites in that we're going to try to avoid and make it so that we don't catch those ones in as well. So let's go ahead and start with that. And let's go ahead and see how we can create this game. And through creating the game, we're going to learn a lot of what each of these different blocks do and just some of the basics behind how to use Scratch. So the first thing that we're going to use is we're going to come in and we're going to use this forever loop. Now what a forever loop is a loop is going to take anything that we put inside of this and it's going to just continue to do anything that we put inside of there. Now that's a good block to start with because that way we don't have to continue to hit that green flag. Anything that we put in there will just continue to loop as we move from the top to the bottom. The first block that we're going to put inside there is from our motion, and it says point towards mouse pointer. Now as we look, we can see that this is on the sprite, and so that means that this is affecting our cat, and our cat is forever going to point towards the mouse pointer. So as we click the green flag, we can see that as we move our mouse around now, that the cat turns and faces wherever our mouse is. So that's a good one to start with, and I can hit this stop button to stop it. But at this point, I'm still not controlling the cat. The cat's not moving at all. It is pointing towards our mouse, but it's not moving. So we're going to go ahead and look now to see how we can make our cat move. The next block that we're going to put in then is from the control panel again. And this time we're going to use an if-then statement. We're going to put that if-then statement right underneath where it says point towards mouse pointer. And the way an if-then statement works is it works as it's what's called a conditional code. So if something happens, then something else will happen as a result. It will only happen if the if is true. So the example I always like to give is if the Chicago Bulls were playing a basketball game and Jimmy Butler was getting ready to take the shot, the Bulls are down by 1 with 3 seconds to go. If Jimmy Butler makes the shot, then the Bulls win. So the if, though, has to be true in order for the then to happen as well. So if he misses the shot, the Bulls aren't going to win the game, so it wouldn't be true. It wouldn't happen. But if he makes it, then as a result of him making the shot, because the if was true, then the then would happen as well. The Bulls would win the game. So let's look at how we can use that. Now you see in our if-then statement we have this shape here, and we'll have to find other shapes that fit inside of there. So we're going to come up and we're going to start off with our greater than. We're going to drop the greater than block in here. And now we've got these two squares that we're going to have to fill some other things in with. The first one that we want to put in is from our sensing tab, and it says the distance. And so we're going to put in, and it says if the distance to the mouse pointer. Now what this means is, again, this is on top of this sprite, our cat. So if the distance that the cat is from our mouse pointer is what this is saying, and we're going to say it's if it's greater than 5. That means if it's greater than 5 steps away, then what do we want it to do? So let's look at this again. So now we know that we saw from the beginning when we just had it move 10 steps. 10 steps is not very far. So what we're saying is that if the cat is more than 5 steps away, so like this would be more than 5 steps away, what we wanted to do is we wanted to go ahead and move. So we're going to say move 10 steps. As we click that now, we see that our cat, not only does it always turn and face the mouse, but now whenever it's more than 5 steps away, it moves 10 steps towards the mouse, and then it continues moving that way because it's looping forever. Now, once I stop moving my mouse, the cat is no longer more than 5 steps away. The if is no longer true. So because the if is no longer true, then it doesn't move anymore, because that has to be true in order for the then to happen as well. All right, so now we've created a program that allows us to control the movement of our cat. We can control how that works. Now, I always like to show and point out some of the variables that we can change in order to make our game a little bit more difficult if we wanted to. Maybe we want to make it a little bit easier. So the main thing that we can change here is the number of steps. So let's say we wanted to make this game easier. We could say instead of moving 10 steps that the cat should move 20 steps. What's going to happen then is that our cat's going to move very quickly. It moves very fast. And so if we were maybe wanting to make the game easier, we could make it, say, move 20 steps instead. What if we wanted to make the game harder? Maybe it was too easy. Well, we could say instead of 10 or 20 steps that it should move 5 steps. Now when we do that, our cat moves very slowly. And so we always want to look at the variables that can change and how we can change those in order to make the game a little bit easier, a little bit harder. Okay? So that's the first lesson. Let's see if you can make that happen, if you can get your cat to move and follow your mouse as you move it across your game board.